Hello, welcome to Why We Are Christians. My name is Kent Philpott, pastor of Miller Avenue Baptist Church in Mill Valley, California, and sitting right over here is another pastor. She happens to be my wife. This is Katie.
Okay.
How you, Katie?
Hello.
So now we're here for a very special reason, which we'll let you know about later on in the program, right? Later on. We're not going to introduce it right away.
Right.
But we do have a reason, special reason.
Yeah.
But let's go back and let's hear about you, where you were born, and some of your background, Katie.
Okay. Well, I am an only child, and I was born in a small-ish town in Ohio called Lima, in the upper left, so the northwestern quadrant of Ohio. And it was a very nice place to grow up as a child because I'm a baby boomer, born in 1950. You can figure my age. And that meant that there were lots of other kids around. So even if I was an only child, I had lots of playmates all the time. We were outside playing cowboy and Indian or climbing trees or this, that, and the other thing all the time. It was lots of fun to grow up that way, and the school was just a couple blocks down the street. We all walked to school together, so that was a nice place. And my father, who became a clinical psychologist, was also getting his PhD, but we had to go to Tennessee for that, to Knoxville, Tennessee, to the University of Tennessee. And so one of the things I tell in what we would call, my life story or kind of the how I became a Christian part of it was that I got inoculated to Jesus because when we went to Knoxville and they looked for a preschool for me, there was, of course, nothing there run by the Jews, which we were all Jewish, but there was, of course, a few of them and a good one run by the Southern Baptists. So they sent me to the Southern Baptist one. And one day I came home singing, "Jesus loves me, this I know." And I remember my father looking at my mother and going, "Don't worry, ignore it, it'll go away."
So here's a little Jewish girl going to a Baptist school and singing little Jesus songs.
Little Jesus, yeah.
Now, you're not saying that you became a Christian.
Oh, no. No, it was just, like I said, it kind of, the inoculation for Jesus happened, not against some disease as the word inoculation would normally be, but, it kind of put the idea in my mind that this was a good, nice thing.
Okay. So where'd you graduate from high school?
Oh, well, now we're saying that we went later to Akron, Ohio, and then we went from Akron to Baltimore, and northern Baltimore, called Towson. And I went to a high school there that was a private school because we found out that the only good schools in Baltimore were private schools.
Oh, that was Park?
It's called Park School. About 2/3 Jewish, lots of really smart kids. I was maybe halfway up the ladder. I'm considered fairly intelligent, but there were some certified geniuses in my class. I mean, certified geniuses.
Now, there's one guy there that you would mention the name of him.
Oh, Edward Witten, who is one of the fathers of the string theory. So look it up if you're interested in knowing about it. And he was one of these guys that had already skipped a couple grades. I mean, he was up at the Einstein level of intelligence.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you graduated from Park School in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah, about 1968.
And what'd you do then?
became a hippie.
You became a hippie.
Well, I went to art school. They couldn't talk me into going to a liberal arts school, which I should have listened to the principal, my teachers, my parents. I should have listened to them, but I was too headstrong. I wanted to go to art school because I was the school artist, see. I had already gone to a lot of Saturday and summer art classes, painting classes, drawing classes at Maryland Art Institute in Baltimore, and I just thought I knew everything else that had to be known, and so why bother going to college for anything other than what I really wanted, which was the art.
Okay.
Which, but it was 1968, and I got waylaid into that whole hippie scene. Yes, it was drugs. Yes, it was rock and roll. Yes, it was other stuff. And, and it didn't do me any good. And I, kind of have regretted all that stuff ever since, because I would like to have gotten a better education. Thankfully, I got more education as an adult, but...
Okay. So now you ended up coming out here to California.
Right, by way of Seattle.
Okay.
Because I wanted to get as far away from that art school town called Philadelphia as possible.
What did you like about Philadelphia?
Philadelphia was fine, but I got pregnant when I was...
You what?
I got pregnant when I was 19 years old.
Okay.
And I had an abortion when I was 20. And it was traumatic. And I wanted to get as far away from that experience as possible, and the art school experience as well, because this was a time when, although I wanted very much to paint representational, what you see, you draw, you paint, live model painting, landscape painting, whatever, maybe use your imagination with it, but at that point, maybe not the instructors and teachers so much as all of the upperclassmen were absolutely like that to anything that was representational. If you were not doing modern, what we might consider modern art, non-representational, throw the paint on the wall, see what you get and call it a masterpiece, If you weren't doing that, then they had no time for you.
Wow. So you're out here now. Folks come to the west coast of Seattle, and then you came down to San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, I came directly to Marin County. Never have lived in San Francisco, the city. Have most of the time lived in Marin, except for some time up in the mountains, which we could get to a little bit later. But here I was 21 years old, came down with a friend, and we met up with some other hip-like folk in Marin County, and started with all kinds of interactions with the California types. Still plenty of the hippie kind of genre.
I remember one time we were in Woodacre, out in the west part of Marin.
Yeah.
And you showed me a house you lived in.
Yeah. I lived in lots of places in West Marin, one in Forest Knolls, one in Woodacre. Of course, I lived in Nicasio in a couple places. I've lived in Fairfax. I've lived in several places in San Rafael. All of these, if our audience doesn't know, they're all towns in Marin County, which is the north side of the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, so you met somebody you married.
I met David Coderre. David was the first man who had a steady job. He was in the Carpenters Union, and he also was a very good welder. He had worked on bridge welding. He had worked as a sculptor, and he was currently still a sculptor, painter, printmaker, whatnot, and had a decent place to live, rented from his friend. He also indicated an interest in marriage and being a father. And so at age 25, I, settled in with him. A year later, we married. Then we decided to go up to Truckee. For about 5 years we went up there, maybe almost 6 years. But meanwhile, I had become a landscaper and a gardener and had my own business, and then worked for a company called Gardeners Guild of Marin. So he was off being a carpenter, I was off being a gardener, and so, we had a well-structured life.
And someplace along the line, you had a child.
Well, as soon as we went up to Truckee, because we sold the house we were living in, as soon as we went up to Truckee, we decided it was now time. So we timed it well. We got pregnant. We had Daniel Kader.
Yeah.
Daniel's 45 years old now. Can you imagine that?
And living in Atlanta, Georgia.
With wife Allison. And then Tilly is 7. And George is almost 5. Tilly's 7.5 now.
Okay. So there you are. And you're living in Marin. And you got started with a musical group.
Yeah, before I it was really just kind of, along with getting married, there was a group that had broken up in our neighborhood. It was called the Fairfax Street Choir. And some of the people who were associated with the Fairfax Street Choir decided that it would be interesting to start another kind of singing experience called black gospel music. Now, a lot of people might remember a song called "Oh Happy Day."
Oh,
happy day when Jesus washed my sins away.
Yeah.
So that was a crossover song from the black community to a wider community. Lots of young white folk were very much taken with that song and got their attention turned to what is this black gospel music, and what, frankly, is lots of other kind of black genre music. And it was a bridge for that. And so several of us formed a group. And we didn't have a name for our little bitty group yet. But then we showed up at a place called Family Light Music in Sausalito, and we met a woman named Helen J.H. Stevens.
Helen Stevens.
Helen Stevens felt called of God to come over to Marin and teach the white folk how to do this. She was already a very well-known gospel musician, pianist, and choir director, church choir director, etc. And she brought with her another choir, and we banded together and made ourselves into something called the Lighthouse Singers of Marin.
Which still goes on.
A version of it is still intact today.
Right. Led by Stephen Roberts.
Stephen Roberts, now called Dr. Roberts. And he's worth it. He's definitely that quality. We've known him since the early 80s.
Okay.
He's only a few years younger than me.
Good, great guy.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah.
We love him.
Now, so you guys still go to practice every other Tuesday night up at the Methodist Church in Terra Linda.
More or less every other.
Mostly every other.
First and third Tuesdays, and sometimes a fifth Tuesday if we need it.
Okay. Yeah. So good.
Yeah, and we recently sang at something called Porch Fest, which was held at various people's home porches in Gerstle Park area of San Rafael near here.
Right near here.
And we were at San Quentin a couple months ago, and we're going to go back. I don't know if you knew we're going to go back in December.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So let's get into how it is that you became a Christian.
Okay. So obviously, singing this interesting music was part of the journey.
Now, you're singing Christian songs, but you're not a Christian.
I'm not a Christian. I didn't call myself much of anything, but I'm singing all this Christian music. And the thing about it was that back then, we were not well known enough or even good enough to do concerts where people would literally show up, fill the seats, know us, etc. So Helen J.H. Stevens was able to basically call up any black church in the Bay Area she wanted and almost tell them, I am going to bring my white choir. Just give me a date and we will sing our A and B selections for you. And they never refused her. So basically what would happen is that at least twice a month we would show up at a church service and we would sit there for the entire time. We would listen to the preaching, to the praying, to the Bible reading, to their singing, to anything that they were doing in their service. And so I heard quite a bit, but it didn't even register to me that I should be reading the Bible myself. It was basically, this is what I'm doing in my life right now, which is this interesting thing called singing black gospel music in a group. Mostly white people, isn't it fun? And I remember a few years into that, several years into that, sitting there one day in one of those services and thinking to myself, okay, it's true what they're saying for them. I'm a Jew. I'm not allowed to believe it. I can't believe it, even if I wanted to. That's the kind of thinking I had. And I'm assuming that other Jews have that same kind of thinking. That, even if I wanted to believe it, then I would be not a Jew anymore. Not knowing that this is like the completion of your Jewishness, not a negation of it. So I sat there, okay, it's true, but for them, I'm a Jew, I can't believe this. So then I really started wrestling with it. And I really felt for the next year at least, if not more than that I was being pursued. I mean, God was literally not going to leave me alone now. I had to deal with this. This was now becoming like the biggest thing in my life that had to be dealt with, is what do I really believe about who Jesus is? It's so interesting. I mean, afterwards, when I meet other Jews who really see such a division, and I remind them, Jesus was a Jew. He had no other title for himself. There was no such thing called Christian when Jesus was walking the planet. Every single of the 12 disciples were Jews. Almost everybody around in the other rungs out of hundreds were Jews. They had no concept that they were doing anything else but fulfilling what Judaism had predicted that the Messiah would be all along.
So here you are, almost being bombarded by all of this that must have made you somewhat ill at ease. So how did it get resolved?
Well, it got resolved through God sending a number of people to me first. That was the first step. other Jews who believed. That would be one. Plus, the Lighthouse Singers then had their first, what we call gospel music workshop, week-long thing, and I had a solo in it, and never sang that song again since, but in that solo, it ended with my yelling slash singing, Jesus, 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 over and over and over and over, and I couldn't stop. And everybody else was getting into it, and everybody was like yelling, Jesus, Jesus. And that was in September of '88, and at the end of that experience, a number of us decided to go to this Baptist church in Mill Valley, where one of the people that I just totally admired in the choir, a very strong Christian woman, Deborah Creech, was going. And so Christina Rose, and a couple of other people decided we're going to go where Deborah's going. So we showed up there, and this preacher guy named Kent Philpott was preaching. and after every time you preached, I'd go into your office. Probably not every time, but I would sometimes confront you with, well, what about this and what about that, and are you sure? And so I would give you a hard time, and of course I had no interest in you as a person. You were just the preacher there, and but there was a time in March of '89 after I had heard now kind of more cerebral white guy preaching. I'd heard lots of rather boisterous and emotional black preacher preaching. Now I got the cerebral white preacher preaching. They kind of finally congealed a bit there, and you came down and you gave an invitation. You didn't do that very often, I don't think. But you came down and you said, everyone with their heads bowed, their eyes closed, if you are now willing, able, and ready to say yes to Jesus, raise your arm, your hand. And without even my intention happening, up went the arm. But then, up went my other arm. And of course, you saw any of us who raised our arms, and then you said to those of us who had raised our hands, okay, you have now made a big step, and you're going to find a big change happening in your life. One of the first changes you're going to find is a kind of an appetite or a real interest in reading the Bible. And all of a sudden, upwelled in me, yes! Where is it? Give it to me now. Give me a Bible.
Wow.
And so for you, it was like, not a major big deal, because you had decades of that. Decades of seeing people come to faith right in front of you. But it was a new thing for me. But it was there was that moment in time.
And then time went on, and I'm going to move us a little along, Katie,
sure.
a little more down the line. And we have to talk about why you got that on your head.
Oh, okay. So we're going to skip over our marriage and all that.
Yeah, down the road.
That's fine. Okay, no way am I taking this off, because it's a little bit of what I'd call an untasty sight.
Not pretty.
Not a pretty sight.
I've gotten used to it.
You've gotten used to it, and you're the only one who gets to see it besides the oncologist. Yes, there's cancer on my head. There's cancer in a few other places. It's got a name. The cancer's name is angiosarcoma. It's a misnomer to say I have breast cancer or lung cancer or skin cancer. That's just where your cancer is. That is not the kind of cancer you have. I have a kind of cancer called angiosarcoma. It lives in the lining of the blood vessel, and it means it gets a free ride wherever it wants to go. And yes, it's in lots of places. And so it's called stage 4 because it has metastasized and traveled from its original location. But its original location was found in January of 2022.
3 years ago.
Getting to be 4 years ago.
Getting to be 4.
I found it in this breast in December of 21. So we're almost 4 years. And so we've been fighting it ever since. We had some time off for good behavior in there.
Yeah.
But with the chemo, the radiation, a little bit of surgery stuff, I've beaten the odds so far. But, I have to get my house in order for your benefit and for my son's benefit and for everybody else's. But I can't leave yet. I got too much work to do.
You got too much work to do. That's true. And, of course, I in the battle with you all the way through.
All the way.
And I hope you don't... of course, you're going to be the one that's going to be editing this. And you can cut this out if you need to. But I got to say how great Kaiser Permanente has been.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Maloney.
They've been good, very good. All the doctors, all the nurses, all the technicians, in our experience with them, I would give a shout out to them, yes.
Right. And we prayed for your healing many, many times.
Yes.
We can never figure out this, I've seen people instantly healed. I've actually been instantly healed on 2 different occasions back a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But despite the praying,
Mm-hmm.
still fighting,
Yeah.
and aware of the reality that without some dramatic healing, it's going to eventually get you.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't... That's true. It would take a miracle, as far as we can tell, to shut it down. But we've managed to keep it at arm's length for quite a while, and there's not too many bad side effects from the chemo or anything else. But we just have to keep after it.
And you're still singing.
Still singing. Still
and you're still
have to be.
And you're still preaching.
They still have to quiet me down a little bit because I'm too loud.
And you preach. You're a very good preacher, Katie.
I preach. I still work out at the gym. I still work out in the backyard with digging and pruning and whatnot.
Yeah, was it this morning we dug up a bunch of raspberry?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Katie. Well, very good. We've come to the end of our first program here. And so there's going to be another program. There's going to be another program with Katie. Part 2, we're going to go further into this. Until then, so long.